And I started to call the other guys to ask them, how is traffic like on your route? And some of them were driving on one route and they told me this is terrible. And the other one was driving on the other route and they told me this is not as bad as you think. And I realized that the only thing that I need is someone to be ahead of me on the road. And that someone will tell me what's going on. And that was the Eureka moment. This is worth the time that I decided not only that I hate traffic jams, but actually have something to do with it.
Very few people in the world have built products used by more than 2 billion people. Today's guest is one of them. Uri Levine. He's the co-founder of Waze, that later acquired by Google, and early founder of Moovit, later acquired for over $1 billion, and founded many other startups. He's also the author of Fall in Love with the Problem, Not the Solution, a practical guide on how to solve real problems and build value-driven products. Today's podcast will dive into why obsessing over real problems, not solution, is the core of every breakout product and the real metric of product market fit and how to find it. And finally, we're going to discuss the leadership decision that separate companies that scale from those that stall. A quick note before we start. You might notice that my voice sounds a little bit hoarse in this episode. I was losing my voice that day, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to sit down with Uri. Thank you for bearing with me. This conversation was absolutely worth it. Take me back to the moment before Waze existed. What problem were you personally obsessed with, and why you simply refused to leave it alone?
So in general, I would say most of the startups will start from an emotional engagement, right? You run into something that you really like, and you run into something that you really hate, and you tell yourself, no, I'm going to change that. And I hate traffic jams. But everyone hates traffic jams, right? It requires a trigger. And the trigger was when we were someday in 2006 in a family trip. And when it was time to go back, we were actually like 10 cars there. And back then we had 4 little children. And it was a while to pick them up into the car and start driving, and everyone else already left. And I started to call the other guys to ask them, how is traffic like on your route? And some of them were driving on one route and they told me this is terrible. And the other one was driving on the other route and they told me this is not as bad as you think. And I realized that the only thing that I need is someone to be ahead of me on the road. And that someone will tell me what's going on. And that was the Eureka moment. This is worth the time that I decided not only that I hate traffic jams, but actually have something to do with it. And I think that if you speak with entrepreneurs, there is always that moment that they decide that this is what they got. And it was somewhere in 2006, and it was only a year later until we actually started the company, until I find the other 2 co-founders, and we decided that this is what we're gonna do. And so we started in 2007, essentially. And then we tried to raise capital, which took us 9 months. Right? So formally, we established the company at the beginning of 2008.
You always say people should fall in love with the problem, not the solution. But what were the early solutions did you personally fall in love with at Waze that turned out to be totally wrong?
So the approach that we had at Waze was crowdsource. So Waze crowdsource everything. And not just traffic information and speed cams, which is kind of obvious. And I know that a lot of people in the Emirates are thanking me for saving them a lot of money on speeding tickets. And but we started with crowdsourcing also the map. So that was the magic. We could start anywhere with a blank page, and the map was actually self-generated by the system and the users. And that magic was actually allows us to become a global leader. That magic allows us to become anywhere. That magic was the only thing that actually allowed to have a free driving app, right? Before that, we used to pay money in order to have a navigation app. And so that was the trigger for everything, the realization that we are going to crowdsource the data. And so it's usually requires, and in general, I would say, look, if the problem is worth solving, then you'll figure out a way to do it. And we were lucky that the first approach that we had turned out to be working, not initially, but after multiple iterations, it ended up as working. But if it wouldn't, then we will try to find a different way.
But crowdsource information are rarely good. How do you filter out the bad actors?
So so let's suggest the following, right? So I say crowdsource, and you think of Wikipedia and what prevents someone from actually creating bad data, right? But when I say crowdsource, you should think of Google search as well, right? Because Google search is automatic crowdsource. Most of the data at Waze is automatically gathered, right? So when you drive someplace, we know that there is a road. If you're making a left turn, then we know that you left turn is allowed, right? So most of the data is very, very accurate. The only thing that requires active contribution is things like street names, right, and house numbers and points of interest and so forth. And this is, in general, we have built for the community the tools that allows them to maintain the data accurate without our intervention. And this is, in general, I would say, if you want to create crowdsourced data, then you need to trust the crowd. You need to trust the community of the contributors, and they will make it happen. You need to build them the tools. So if you will, if you will call the driveway to your house Mahmoud Avenues, no one would know that it's not, and no one would care, right? And it will stay on the map as Mahmoud Avenues forever, right? But if you will take the main road from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, and you will change that to Mahmoud Avenue, then number one, you cannot do that. Number two, someone would notice and will change that instantly a second later, right? And so the ability to maintain data that is inaccurate is nearly impossible. Now, what happened is that we have built a community with different ranks and different levels. And if someone is being overridden on something that you provided, then your rank is actually going down and you can do less and less. So we kept the bad contributors in that sense that they're unable to make any harm.
This question I think about a lot. What is the true value of Waze? I'm a big user of Waze, but I know the place that I need to go from point A to point B, but I still use Waze for several reasons.
So it's interesting, right? We started Waze because we thought we are going to help drivers to avoid traffic jams. So the main value proposition was about saving time, right? I'm going to find the fastest route, and you can save 10 minutes every day. And at the end of the month, this is 300 minutes, 5 hours that you can do whatever you want with these 5 hours, right? Spend it with your loved one, do whatever you want, right? So that's actually pretty significant value proposition. As it turns out, the ETA, the certainty, is way higher value, right? So knowing exactly when you get there is the highest value. And by the way, I think that in particular in Emirates or in multiple markets, I also empower drivers to drive. So driving on the highways on Emirates is actually rather complex. Which exactly lanes you should be on in order to get off the highway when there are, 7 lanes going straight, three of them are exiting right and three of them are exiting left, and which one of them you should be on is it's
Jojo,
actually creating the certainty.
this is exactly why. There's two reasons why I use Waze. This is one of them. When my friend asks me, how far are you? I go to the Waze and it's 100% accurate. And second reason is to stay within the speed limits because I take a lot of tickets. How do you personally test whether a problem is big enough or not just annoying, but worth years of your life?
You're right. It's so how do you validate the problem, right? And in general, I would say start with a problem. Always start with a problem. And then ask yourself, and it's really simple. Look, at the end of the day, the entrepreneurship journey is about value creation. The simplest way to create value is solve a problem. That's it. So start with a problem. I think of a problem that, number one, you're personally attached to it, right? So if you'll tell me, or there is a problem in an industry that I don't care, or something like that, then I don't care, right? I'm not going to be passionate about it, and I simply don't. So you start with a problem that you care, and then you ask yourself, so who has this problem? And then you go and speak with those people, literally speak face to face with those people and understand their perception of the problem. And only then you start to think about the solution. And when I say go and speak with 100 people, right? Because otherwise you're going to speak with your best friends and they're telling you, oh, this is a great idea, go ahead and do it, right? Yeah, and so you need to speak with people that you don't know in order to get out of the comfort zone and really get the perspective or the perception of the problem. And it's not about the real problem, it's about the perception of the problem. You want people to be emotionally engaged with it, right? So if you tell them, how much do you hate traffic jams? Everyone hates traffic jams, right? And so this is easy, right? But for many of them, what you're really looking for is to hear their stories of the problem. They will tell you, you know what, I was stuck in traffic, I missed my flight, right? You want something like that. You want people to be at the level of frustration that you will feel like they are sending you on a mission to solve that for them. And then only then then start to think about the solution. And so if you follow this path and your solution works, it's guaranteed that you're creating value. If you start with the solution, you might be building something that no one cares. And that is going to be very frustrating. So fall in love with the problem, not the solution. The problem is going to serve as the North Star of your journey. When you have a North Star, you're going to make less deviation from the course. And you are increasing the likelihood of being successful. That's it. But on top of that, your story is going to be way more compelling when you focus on the problem. Just imagine that we will be here in 2007 and I will tell you I'm going to build an AI crowdsource-based navigation system. And you're going to say, oh yeah, very interesting, but you don't care. If I will tell you I'm going to help you to avoid traffic jams or speeding tickets, then you do care. When your customer care, they want you to be successful and they're going to help you to become successful. And this is why I would say start with the problem. By the way, also the name of the book, Fall in Love with the Problem, Not the Solution, not just on my t-shirt. A book that Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, called that the Bible for entrepreneurs, and he actually wrote the foreword to my book. And I wrote this book because I'm an entrepreneur, no doubt about it, right? So I built Waze with 1 billion users, and then Moovit, and then 10 other startups. So I keep on building startups, but I'm also a teacher. So I feel equally rewarded when I build stuff myself or I guide someone to build it. And writing the book was fulfilling my destiny as a teacher, sharing my know-how with anyone, right? With you, with your audience, with entrepreneurs, with business people, with people that wants to become more successful. And for me, I think that this is even a bigger creation than so the book is a bigger creation than Waze. And the same way that I keep on building companies, I will keep on writing books.
But even you're very popular of falling in love with the problem, not the solution, even before the book. But you're an engineer like I. We usually fall in love with the technical solution, not the problem. How did that idea, it's not very intuitive. How did you understand that?
It's the connection to the people that is stronger in my DNA. It's stronger than the connection to the code. And I was actually a very good developer. I wrote code for about 10 years, right? So, but I always had the user in my mind. And one of the things that makes me understand user, by the way, I have about, with Waze and Moovit, 2 billion people using my products, right? And so this is a lot, right? This is maybe 10 people on the planet with 2 billion people using their product. I always had the user in my mind. And so if you look at Waze, Waze is simple. When you build something simple, then you will end up to be successful. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. This is Leonardo da Vinci saying, and it's not easy to build something simple. So I always will have in my mind, how can I make that simple? How can I make that a no-brainer for the new user, for the next user? Not for me. For me, it's easy.
So, me personally, sometimes I confuse my passion with the problem depth. And what is the clearest signal that me chasing an idea instead of a real problem?
And you might be building something that no one cares, right? That's the
I've done
result.
that. I've done that twice before. Yes.
So you mentioned earlier you did marketplace. How did you validate the marketplace?
The way that I validated the marketplace, I spoke with engineers, designers that were looking for a job, and I spoke with agencies that were looking for designers and engineers. This is after I built several failed products in the market.
Exactly what you should have done that, right? You should have started with the buyers and the sellers of this market, right? And try to understand. Try the buyers to tell you, I cannot find the stuff, right? And the sellers telling you, I don't know how to reach out to customers, right? Most of the marketplaces, by the way, they were triggered by underutilized supply. An interesting startup, an interesting company marketplace that I'm now leading is called Zoom Car, and it's Airbnb for cars in India. Now, if you realize that, okay, wait a minute, your own car is probably the most underutilized resource that you have because we are using it about 1 hour a day. And rest of the time, not only that it's not creating any value, it's actually occupying a parking place, so creating even more damage than help. And wait a minute, and why not have someone using it during that period of time, and I will make some money out of that. But then you go to the demand side and you realize that while in Emirates, most people own cars and it's not a problem, but in India, not exactly, right? So you think of the number of cars per household in India, this is about 0.1. And obviously a lot of people need car, but they cannot afford to buy one. And marketplace is a perfect solution, right? So you start with the realization that the marketplace is going to solve a problem on both sides, both on the demand side and on the supply side. And if you do, they are actually going to be in a very good place, a starting point.
I got you.
By the way, even then, I will tell you, don't write not even a single line of code. Go to WhatsApp, try to implement a marketplace on WhatsApp and see if there is actually a way for you to fulfill the demand and to create value. So the first phase is going to be, let's validate that the problem is real. And then the next phase will be, okay, my value proposition, I'm going to solve that problem for you. Try to validate the value proposition, try to deliver that manually and create value. And if you do, then now two things happen. Number one, you know that you want to follow this path. The problem is real. You can create value. Number two, you know what to build. You already delivered value, so you know exactly what to build.
This is very unintuitive. That's why a lot of smart people start building first, validate later.
It's it's a different passion, right? It's a different passion, and I'm trying to bring us back to basic, right? I'm trying to go back and say, wait a minute, if you create value, you will be successful. Start there.
You describe startups as a journey of failures. Which failure at Waze hurt you the most emotionally, not financially?
So in general, I would say that the building a startup have three dimensions, right? So number one, this is going to be a roller coaster journey with ups and downs and ups and downs. And if you'll tell me that all the businesses in the world have ups and downs, I agree. But the frequency of those when you're building startup, way more. And I think that I heard the best quote on that from Ben Horowitz. Ben Horowitz is one of the founders of Andreessen Horowitz venture capital firm. And before that, he used to be a CEO of a startup, and he was asked whether or not he was sleeping well at night as a CEO of a startup. He said, "Oh yeah, I slept like a baby. I woke up every 2 hours and cried." Really the reality. So roller coaster. The second one, it's a journey of failures. Look, at the end of the day, we're trying to build something new that no one did before. And even though that we think that we know exactly what we are doing, we don't. So we try. We try one thing and it doesn't work. We try another thing and it doesn't work. We keep on trying different things until we find one thing that does work. Now, if you realize that this is going to be a journey of failures, then there are two immediate conclusions. The first one is that if you're afraid to fail, in reality, you already failed because you're not going to try. Albert Einstein used to say that if you haven't failed, that because you haven't tried new things before. If you are going to try new things, you will fail. Number two, you want to fail fast. Because when you fail fast, you still have plenty of time to make another attempt and another attempt and another attempt. If this is about building the product, then another version and another version and another version and another version. If this is about go-to-market, then another go-to-market approach, another go-to-market approach, and so forth. And the more attempts that you have, with the learning that you accumulated throughout, you simply increase the likelihood of being successful. So people ask me what was my biggest failure, and I will tell them, look, I haven't done it yet. I deserve the right to do bigger failures in the future, and I will, because I keep on building. With Waze, there were multiple times that we almost died, right? It took us 9 months to raise capital at the beginning. And so we almost died before we even started, right? And in particular, when so many people are telling you this will never work, right? And that is really frustrating. And you meet with people and they will tell you this will never work, or this is the stupidest idea that I ever heard, or no way that you can pull that off, right? And so a lot of people will discourage you. And this is why, by the way, you need to be in love with the problem, because otherwise you are not going to go through that journey. Then we were able to raise capital and we built the first product and we launched that in Israel, and that was actually pretty good. Israel is a dense place, a lot of smartphones, a lot of people are connected. So we were able to reach critical mass, and turns out to be pretty good with the traffic jams in Israel. And because we are starting from blank page, right? Because we are creating the map as we go, we say, wait a minute, if it's working in Israel, it should be working everywhere. And we launch it globally end of 2009. Now that was not good enough. It was not good enough in Abu Dhabi. It was not good enough in the US. It was not good enough in Western Europe. It was not good enough in major countries. It was actually good enough only in about 4 places, in the Czech Republic, in Slovakia, in Latvia, in Ecuador. And we are realizing that it's not good enough, and we're speaking with the drivers. Now remember, the drivers, we told them we're going to help you to avoid traffic jams. They wanted us to work, but it didn't. So we spoke with them, we asked them what didn't work for them. They told us, we built the next version addressing everything that they've told us. Now we know that it's going to work, and it's not. So we're doing it all over again. We speak with the driver, they told us what didn't work, we built the next version. Now we have the conviction that it's going to work, and it's not. Iteration after iteration after iteration. During those iterations, we almost ran out of cash. And look, the thing about those iterations is that for each one of them, you go with the conviction that it's going to work, and it's not. And the day after you realize that it's not, you get up with the same passion and the same enthusiasm and the same conviction that this next time is going to work. And so we almost ran out of cash. We almost died. And then during that period of time, also, Google announced Google Maps, right? Before that, Google Maps was just a display. Then they started to create their own maps, and everyone told us that we are going to die. But we weren't. If you look back into mistakes that you should avoid, it's mainly about people. You hire people, you're 100% sure that they're the right person, and then you realize that they're not, and you give them another chance and another chance and another chance. So this is very, very powerful. If I will tell entrepreneurs to take one thing out of today's podcast, the following is the most important part. I spoke with many entrepreneurs that their startup failed and asked them why, what happened. And about half told me the team was not right. And I kept on asking, what do you mean the team was not right? And I heard, this guy was not good enough and this guy was not good enough. So not good enough was the main reason. Another reason that I heard quite often, we had communication issues, right? Something that I actually call ego management issues. And then I asked them the most interesting question: when did you know that the team is not right? All of them told me within the first month. Within the first month. And you say, wait a minute, if you knew within the first month that the team is not right and you didn't do anything, the problem was not that the team was not right. The problem was that the CEO did not make hard decisions. Making hard decisions is hard. This is why most people don't like to make those. And the result is, by the way, is always the same. If you have people that shouldn't be there and you keep them, the top performing people, they would leave. They would leave because they don't want to be in a place that is unable to make the hard decisions, and they would leave because they have a choice. Now, that was triggering for me to write one of the chapters in the book that is called Firing and Hiring. Now, in proper English, you probably should say hiring and firing. And when I sent the book proposal to some of the publisher, they told me it should be hiring and firing. And I said, no, firing is hard decisions. Hiring is easy decisions. First of all, you have to learn how to make the hard decisions. Now, the most important conclusion of that is that every time that you are going to hire someone new, mark your calendars for 30 days down the road and ask yourself one question. Knowing what I know today, would I hire this person? Now, if the answer is no, then fire them immediately. They are already set on a trajectory of not being successful. They're creating damage not just to you as a leader, to the team as a team, and to themselves. They deserve to be successful, but it's not going to happen here. By the way, if the answer is yes, go to this person and tell them, I'm really excited that you have joined. You are exceeding my expectations, and give them more equity. Create the bonding today that will last longer. And that turns out, and by the way, the reason for all that is very simple. Right? You think back on all the companies, all the places that you've worked before, and I would ask you if there were people that shouldn't be there, did you know? And the answer is always yes. As a team member, you knew that there is someone that is a complete jerk and no one likes to work with this guy, or someone that is under-deliver consistently. That's the nature of the beast. Everyone knows, and the CEO doesn't do anything. That's where the problem resides. And this is why when there is someone that does not fit, the sooner that you make the decision, the better off the company is going to be. Now, am I making a fast decision around that? Yes. Am I making mistakes? Yes. If there is a chance that I will be in exactly in the same place that I hired someone, turns out that it's not, and I would like to give him another chance, probably yes. It's a big mistake. If there is someone that shouldn't be there, let them go immediately. The rest of the team, they will come the next day and say, thank you, it was about time. Look, building awesomeness into organization, at the end of the day, two factors. Number one, get rid of people that shouldn't be there. Number two, keep the A players. That's it.
I love my job. I'm very fortunate. This is the best job ever. I get to create stuff and help users. The only part I dislike and it drains my energy is firing people. And I always blame myself. This is something I could have done better. Coaching, give one chance, another chance. Any advice or tips how to let go of people?
So yes, and I'll give you a few advices in a second. But the most important part is that we hire them because we thought that they are going to deliver, right? Or we hired them because we thought that they are the right person. They are going to fit into the position. They are going to fit into the culture. They are going to deliver, and then we realize that it's not. And regardless, the most important part is making sure that you let those people go sooner rather than later, because anytime that you hesitate and wait, everyone knows. So here's the tool, right? And it's a very powerful tool. Ask yourself if there will be someone else that is running this company, a new CEO, what decision that CEO will make. And then you look at it and you say, okay, wait a minute, that guy would make the right decisions firing the person that shouldn't be there, then I should do exactly the same. We occasionally have hard time to make that decision for multiple reasons. One is that we made the previous decision of hiring that person. This virtual new CEO was not involved. It does not relate to that part. Number two, we have emotionally engaged with this person, right? We really liked him. We brought him on board. We tried to bring him up to speed. So it reflects on our failure. And we have hard time with that. And it's not about the failure. The failure is about what we are doing moving forward. So today is the first day of the rest of your life. And then you ask yourself, do I want to be with this person or not? Now, if you're looking for empowerment, speak with the top performing people in your team. They already know. Ask them, how sorry would you be if this person would leave? It's a hard decision. It's painful. By the way, it's painful the night before. What a
Yes.
relief the day after.
But it's because I have been let go before, and I know how, as a guy, how hard it feels.
But even when you fire someone, they don't know that they might hate your guts, right? And look, we also we'd like to think of ourselves as a good person, right? And good person in general don't like to hurt other people. And so by firing someone, we are hurting them, and therefore we don't like it. But we're not. We are giving them a chance to be successful someplace else. And this is really, really important. And as soon as you start to think about it and you realize that they are not going to be successful here, then letting them go is actually doing them a favor as well.
I'm gonna use this line in the next meeting. I want to jump into product market fit. You have an interesting comment, which is it's not really about revenue, it's more about retention.
Look, it's really simple, right? We basically said the the journey of building a startup is about value creation. So product market fit means that we create value to our customers. And it's not easy to get there, right? This is going to be the first part of the journey. It's going to be a very, very long part of the journey until we get there. If we do not figure out product market fit, we will die. That's it. You never heard of a company that did not figure out product market fit. They simply died. How long does it take them to figure out product market fit? That we don't know. Because beforehand, we never heard about them, right? And then all of a sudden they show up. And this is where it's becoming interesting, right? So think of all the applications that you're using every day, right? From Waze, WhatsApp, searching Google, ChatGPT, Uber, Netflix, Instagram, whatever it is, and ask yourself, what is the difference between any of those today and the first time that you have used that? And the answer is that there is no difference. We are using Waze today the same way that we used Waze for the first time in our life. We're using Google search for the same time or WhatsApp. So once a company figure out product market fit, which is the value that they create to their customers, they don't change that anymore. How long did it take them to get there? We don't know. For Microsoft, it was 5 years. For Waze, 4 years. For ChatGPT, 6 years, right? They're a 10 years old company. We only heard about them about 3 years ago, right? So almost 7 years until we heard the name for the first time. Product market fit have one metric, retention. And it's really simple. If you create value, they will come back. That's it. If they are not coming back, that means that they are not creating value. Look at your podcast, right? How many of the listeners are coming back?
Almost all of them.
That means that you create value for them, right? If you wouldn't, they wouldn't be coming back. That's it. Now, your problem is that you need to maintain that consistently, right? So each one of the chapters needs to be good, right? Because if you would start to have not good chapter, not good chapter, not good chapter, then people would start to leave. They will basically say it used to be good and it's not good anymore. We are going to find a new podcast, a different podcast to listen to it, and that's it. So maintaining the product market fit, it's relatively easy, right? Because even in the podcast industry, right? So as soon as you start to create some traction, then it's easier to bring the right people into the podcast, and then you keep that momentum positive for a long while. But at the end of the day, if you don't create value, they will not come back. So therefore, creating value, retention is the only metric for product market fit. Now, in general, I would say if you create value, you will be successful. You will figure out a way to make money out of that. There is no way that you can create a lot of value to a lot of people and you wouldn't figure out the revenue stream.
You interact with a lot of founders. What is the most common way that those founders lie to themselves of having product market fit?
Most of the people will misjudge product market fit. So they have overestimations of their product market fit. They think that they are already there, and in reality, they are not. They would think that they are already there because people telling them that they're awesome, right? That people telling them, I really like your product, right? Okay, wait a minute. So there are people that like the product. That's a good starting point. But at the end of the day, this is about retention, and retention measured through the system, right? So you have to measure that and make sure that you are improving and improving and improving. But it's usually going back to basic of understanding users. One of the chapters in my book called Understanding Users, or You Are Only a Sample of One Person. And and by the way, the inspiration to write the chapter was coming from Steve Wozniak. I started my career as a software developer, right? So software engineer. And when I started, Steve Wozniak was the technological guru of the world, right? He was the guy. That's it. And I wanted to meet him. I always wanted to meet him. And about 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet him for the first time in my life. And we were both speaking at the conference in Guatemala. And the organizer of the conference asked us to join a dinner the night before, just a keynote speaker. So I thought this is my opportunity to meet him for the first time in my life. I was really excited. I was really excited. And I didn't really care what's for dinner or what's the venue or what. I didn't care about anything. What I really wanted is to have a selfie with him. And so I took out my iPhone and I took a selfie. Now, with iPhone, you can take selfie by clicking here on the screen, right? Or you can use the volume button and click here on the side. This is exactly what I did. And he said, finally. And I said, finally what? I said, finally someone using it the way that I meant it to be. And for me, and most people don't use it this way, right? But then I realized that, okay, this is an inspiration to write about different users and how they interact with systems and so forth. It will tie back into product market fit in a second. But this is going to be an interesting experiment for your audience. And I usually, if I have large crowd, then I ask people, how do you use Waze, right? So Waze guides you to your destination by showing you on the screen the next turns that you need to make. But it's also telling you in audio prompts, turn right, turn left, and so forth. If you're relying on the screen, raise your hand, right? And then about 80% of the people would raise their hand. If you're listening to the audio prompts, raise your hand. And then we have about 20% of the people raise their hand. Now, the reality is that up until today, you didn't know that there are other people that are using it differently. And you didn't care. And from today, you do know and you still don't care. If you're building the product and you don't know how people are using your product, then you're building the wrong product. There is no way that you can build something successful if you don't know how people are using your product. And the only way for you to find out is watch. So the most important tool is watch new users using the product for the first time in their life. Because this is the only way for you to learn. You cannot be a new user anymore. And most of your users at the beginning are new users. So you have to watch them using your product for the first time in their life. And if they're doing exactly what you expected them to do, then you say thank you. And if they're not, then you ask them why. You can learn a lot from the system, but you cannot learn why. And that why is going to help you to improve the product and get to the level of product market fit. And usually I would say that the way that you need to structure it is that you look at every phase of using the product, right? So think about the user flow of the product, right? You enter and then you register and then you select few things, and then you do something else, and you do something else, and eventually you get the value. I want you to look at all of those phases, each one of them as a barrier for the next user. And you want to speak with the people that failed and not the people that were successful, because they will tell you why they did not continue to the next phase. That adoption is the one that is going to eventually make your product better. And that adoption is the one that will allow you to win the market. Now, if we think for a second on the so the process of figuring out product fit is iterating. And in between, you're watching new users and you're speaking with users that fail to use your product, or have started and not using it anymore, or have used that and churned, right? And I want us to think for a second on some of the most successful products in the world. iPhone, right?
Yes.
Waze, WhatsApp, ChatGPT, Uber, Amazon, right? So different products. And we ask ourselves, what makes them such successful product? And we can claim this is technology. I agree, and they all have technology. Maybe we can claim because they were the first one, they were the pioneers. In some cases, it's even true. Maybe it's because of flawless in execution, always important. But all of them become market leader because of simplicity. They're all simple to use. Think about buying a smartphone, buying a phone before Apple. Open the box, you take a user manual that thick, and then the phone is there. And think about buying an iPhone. There is no user manual. That's about simplicity. So when you think about building successful product, and this goes back into understanding users, simplicity is going to be the one that will allow you to win the market.
You said that it took you 4 years to find product market fit at Waze. How did you know that you have product market fit, and if there's any specific metric that you measured?
Retention. People are coming back. We basically were looking at so the key metric for retention was how many people are still using the product 3 months after the first time that they have used it. And then once you dig into the data, then you realize that, okay, wait a minute, we find very strong correlation between using Waze the third time and then keep on using that, right? And so we were driving people to try to use Waze for 3 times in a row, right? So we will send them gifts and points and messages and encourage them and so forth, and tell them that, okay, wait a minute. Meanwhile, the system have improved and so forth in order to keep using them 3 times. In general, by consumers, that triggering point is somewhere between 3 to 4 times. If you are using something 3 or 4 times, then you are way more likely to become a user of that than if you are not reaching that point.
If you have to ask founders one question to test their PMF, it is your customers coming back?
Yeah, show me the cohort. Show me their retention after 3 months, right? And so this is really the duration depending on the type of product, right? Because in some industries, you're looking for daily retention, right? They need to come back the same day or tomorrow and so forth. Some of them is actually for a longer period of time. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that people are keep on using that for a long period of time. So they keep on coming back. Show me their retention after 3 months. Now, if you don't know that, show me, let's start with usage figures, right? So if you don't know what people are doing, how long they're using the product, how many times a month, what's the average durations of a use case, then you are not measuring the right stuff. The right stuff is about usage and not about users.
How to know when to keep iterating versus when to commit and scale? Because we always have something to improve.
And so if you are getting to a point that you are keep on iterating and you are not moving the needle in terms of the significance of the retention, then stop. Then this is good enough. If based on the current churn that you have or the current retention that you have, you can build successful business model, then stop iterating. And in general, look at the challenge with product market fit is that there are actually four phases, right? And the four phases are the first one is engaging, right? So you need to tell them a story that will make them feel that, okay, wait a minute, I would like to try that. In that story, by the way, if you make it based on the problem, then you are way more likely to engage them. The second one is about adoption, right? So how easy is it to get from trying the first time to get to the value? That process of adoption is about simplicity. If you make it simple, then you'll have more people actually getting there. And then the third phase is about value, right? If there is value, they will come back. If there is no value, they will not come back. The fourth phase is about delightfulness. If they are delighted, they will tell others. And then this is where your marketing engine become unnecessarily, because you will end up with word of mouth. You haven't seen any advertisement for Waze. If I would ask you, how did
No.
you hear about Waze? Then you will tell me, someone told me, right? That's it, word of mouth.
Taxi drivers, when I first came here, all of them use Waze.
Yeah. So the power of building those products is in each one of those phases, by the way, requires different focus, right? But at the end of the day, this is why it takes so long to figure out product market fit, because you need to go through all of them. You need to tell the right story, and then you need to make it simple, and then you need to create value, and then they will come back. And if they come back and there is high frequency of use, then they will tell others as well. By the way, Waves have a special feature for taxi drivers. And this is interesting. In Waze, you can choose your avatar, right? So most of the
Yes.
people end up with the default, which is the blue arrow, but you can choose your own car, right? You can choose
Yeah.
a red sporty car. You can choose different things. All of them are not doing anything unless you choose a yellow taxi. And yellow taxi assume that you are actually a taxi and you can drive on public transportation routes. So in many cases, places that there is public transportation routes or carpool routes, then that actually provides you, giving you better service, because they know that you can use it.
Oh, no way! I was not aware of this.
So if you go into a taxi, you will see that their avatar on the Waze
Yeah,
app
yeah,
is
yeah.
the yellow taxi.
Oh, God, that's so cool. So you guys really understand the users, even taxi drivers is a big persona that you guys have.
Also, by the way, also motorcycle drivers.
But what's different for motorcycles?
It's because they usually, if you are riding a scooter, you're not stuck in traffic. You go between the cars, and that's it, right? And so in most places, you go between the cars, and so therefore your route is actually going to assume that you are not going to wait more than one traffic light anywhere. And so there, your route is actually going to be slightly different.
Man, I'm so embarrassed. I've been using Waze for 5 years and I was not aware of all of this.
You are not using it, right? So this is one of the most important thing to remember, is that think about features, right? How many features have you used today in all the applications that you have used? One, three, very few, right? We don't need a lot of features in order to create value. We need very basic, right? Even if you think of WhatsApp, you wrote a message, you read a message, you reply, and you forward. That's it. Four features. And maybe forward not today, but maybe yes, right? So most of the places, most of the apps, what creates the most significant usage is very, very few features. When you add more features, you add more complexity. You don't want to add more features. There are only three reasons why you should be adding features to your product. One is if you increase adoption. So you know what, I'm adding a new feature that is doing automatic login, and therefore you don't need to re-log in, and that's increase adoption. Two is increase addressable market. You add a new language, you increase addressable market. And three is make money. So if now you need, in order to make money, you need to ask people for payment method, then you, even though that is adding complexity, you ask them for a credit card information, right? Because this is how you're going to make money. So at the end of the day, these are the only three reasons. If it's not serving one of those, don't add that feature.
Were there any moment where you were watching a real user struggle and it changed the product priorities overnight?
Yes, multiple times realizing that, okay, wait a minute, we at the beginning, we didn't need you to register. We didn't care, right? So you're going to get the value. We are going to get the value by simply you using the product. That's it, end of story. And then we said, okay, wait a minute, but if you're not registered, then there is no way that we would know who you are, and maybe we would like to prevent you from using some features, right? For example, the ability to write feedback to other drivers, right? If I don't know who you are, then you might be a bad actor, and I don't want bad actors. So we created registration, and then we noticed that new users actually struggle with that. And this is almost 15 years ago, right? So or even more, that there was no registration with Google or Facebook, so simple registration. You actually had to register. I realized that this is actually preventing some of the conversion, and we moved the registration phase from the beginning to someplace else. So actually, when you wanted to use a feature that actually require you to register, and then we said, okay, wait a minute, this feature requires registration because of XYZ, and therefore we ask you to register. And so a lot of people were using Waze without registration at the beginning, but then they registered later. Realizing that you don't need the registration at the beginning is actually very powerful. From the usage perspective, registration is a hassle. Is a hassle. We don't need that. But from the product, you want them to be registered, right? You don't even know why, but you want them to be registered. And I would say, no, create value for them, David. It's going to be very easy to register after you create value.
Man, I'm so impressed that you remember all of those details 15 years back. I mean, you're truly passionate about the product and the user.
It's more about the user. It's more about understanding the users that allows you to build successful products.
Now, around simplicity, you often say no one reads anything. What part of Waze only worked once it became embarrassingly simple?
You go to Google Maps, you're searching for an address. There is a street name, and there is a house number. You go to enter the address, then there is a keyboard, right? Only letters. You write the street name, then you need to switch into a numbers keyboard in order to add the street number, the house number. And then you go back into keyboard. You open Waze. The keyboard is actually a very special for Waze. It actually have all the letters and all the numbers. Now, this is very simple, right? It's only about switching keyboard. It's not a big deal. We switch keyboards every day, multiple times. But all of a sudden, you make it simpler. People think that, wow, this is genius. By the way, I think that Waze actually had a patent on that. I think so. I don't remember. But if you think about it, it makes perfect sense, right? We know that address includes letters and numbers, right? So if you need to provide us with an address, then you think of all navigation devices before Waze, and their search was structured. Which country, which city, which street, which house numbers, and we said, wait a minute, people don't think that structure, right? They might. So simply write down whatever you want, and then we will figure out if we understand, then excellent. If not, then we will ask you for more. So adding a lot of features of simplicity for the users, we look at them today as yeah, it makes perfect sense. But that was actually being pioneer in simplicity, in trying to make things very, very simple. And And by the way, at the very beginning, we thought that, okay, wait a minute, if this is about daily commute and you are using Waze when you go to places that you do know how to get, maybe we don't need a map. Maybe we just need to show you the street names and the town, right? So additional the information in a different way. We tried that. People prefer the map, and so we ended up with keeping the map. But our map is very simple. You compare that to Google Maps. Google Maps is very detailed. When you're driving, you don't need the details. You need to make sure that you're in the right lane to get off the highway.
I love the fact that you even tried to make it even simpler. Remove the map entirely, just the roads. It didn't work out, but at least you guys were trying to make it even more simple than this.
We try. There is always a level that you basically say, okay, wait a minute, this is not enough, and this is enough, and this is too much, right? And so you're always looking for that level.
You, you always emphasize operating in phases. What was the hardest distraction to ignore while building Waze?
So one of the most significant focus, and by the way, focus is one of the hard decisions, right? Focus is about what we are not doing, not what we are doing. Saying no to this and saying no to this and saying no to this and saying no to this allows you to remain focused. And this is really dramatic, right? Because when you are operating in phases, then you can do one phase at a time. If this is about product market fit, then I don't care about sales. I don't care about business model. I don't care how am I going to make money. I don't care about growth. I don't care about anything. I need to get to the level that my retention is high enough and then move to the next phase. Now, this is very, very hard because if you think about it, the first phase, you need only product people. You don't need marketing. You don't need business development. You don't need any other role that is not about the product. And then you figure out the product, and what happened is that then you shift gears, right? Let's say that the next phase is about figuring out business model. All of a sudden, the product people are not the most important people anymore. It's the revenue generating, right? And so when you shift gears, it's really, really hard for the CEO and for the entire organization. Think about it, right? So we are climbing a mountain, trying to figure out product market fit. It's really hard. We get to the top of the mountain, and now you tell me now get down and try climb the next mountain. Go back into the beginning of figuring out business model, and that's it.
And have you seen any startup die because they did too many right things at the wrong time?
A lot of startups were successfully bringing customers at the beginning. Their story was actually pretty good. A lot of users came. They enjoyed the fast ride of having more and more and more users and customers, and they focus on that. Now the product was not good enough, so they all left, right? They all churned. And at the end of the day, what happened is that if you have a lot of customers and your product is not ready, then then you would fight all the days to keep the customers and not building the product. The biggest enemy of good enough is perfect. This is a journey of failures. We don't need to be perfect. We need to be good enough. And the way that we are going to become good enough is by starting not good enough, iterating, and becoming good enough. And this is really, really important. Imagine two startups starting the same day, building the same product, making the same progress, even have twin brothers and sister teams, right? Really identical. Until one day, company A is saying, our product is not ready. We need to keep on building that. And company B is saying exactly the same thing. Our product is not ready, but we will go to the market with it. From this point on, company B is making way faster progress than company A because they have real feedback. Now, occasionally I tell that to entrepreneurs, and they will tell me, no, you don't understand. Our product is not ready. It's embarrassing level, right? We're gonna lose all of our customers. Wait a minute, you don't have customers. You have nothing to. We're gonna hurt our brand name. You know you don't have a brand. We'll have once you are successful.
Guilty, guilty.
If you have nothing to lose, then this is exactly where you can actually make bold moves. This is exactly where you can try new things completely different because you have nothing to lose. If you're afraid to lose something, then you are actually going to slow down in your operation. You're not moving fast enough. And this is why it's important. This is why I don't want you to have a lot of users at the beginning. I want you to have enough to improve your product, and you don't feel any guilt about I'm going to lose all of my customers, right? Okay, so you have very few customers. As long as your addressable market is dramatically bigger than the current market that you own, then you should look at the new user and not the old one.
As a product manager or a founder, everything seems urgent. And how do you personally decide what is the most important thing to do?
So let's think of go-to-market strategy, right? Because it's easier to demonstrate that. I would ask someone how you are going to get your customers or your users, right? And they will tell me, oh, we're going to run Facebook ads. Okay, good. And other ways, we're going to do Google ads as well. In other ways, and they don't think about other ways at the beginning. And then I'll tell them, you know what, let's create a list of 50 different ways to get customers.
50.
50, 50.
Oh, God.
Now, how long will it take you to generate that list?
A lot of time.
You know what,
50.
go to ChatGPT, ask them
Okay,
to generate.
ChatGPT. Yeah.
Right? But even if you'd ask few people to go into the whiteboard, each one of them is going to add more ways to bring in customers, right? So some of them are online, some of them are offline, some of them are through the product, some of them are going to be different ways, right? So someone will tell you run a TV ad on the news, right? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's expensive. I don't know if this is going to work out. But now you have 50 different ways. And you look at it and you say, okay, this is only a list of experiments. We are going to keep on doing those until we find the one that does work. Which one? I don't care. One of the 50 is going to work. Which one? I don't know. Then all of a sudden, your state of mind is that this is a list of experiments. Now, this goes back into features of the product. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a perfect story because when they started, they built a roadmap. And the roadmap actually had 30 different features. Right? And they're looking to raise capital. And people told them, okay, you know what, doesn't make sense. 30 features is a lot. You need to reduce the list. And they reduced the list to 10 features. And their claim was that we cannot go to the market without those 10 features. Now, LinkedIn started, they raised capital, they built the first product. They went to the market with the first product. 9 years later, they become public company. When they become public, how many of those 10 features were actually developed? One. So they were lucky. The first one worked, and that's it. And you don't need to do it. So when you think about it as a list of experiments, then you build very few features. You try that, right? People are not coming back. That means that we are either too complex or we don't have a feature that creates value. Okay, so we add another feature. They're not coming back. We add another feature. They're not coming back. We add another feature. They're starting to come back. That actually means that all those features, I don't need them. The new feature, that is the one that actually makes the difference. And in many cases, what you need to do as a product lead is go and remove the rest of the features in order to create simplicity. So more features add complexity, less features create simplicity. There's always the trade-off. And so which one is the one? This is where it's starting to become very, very important to realize. If we realize that this is going to be a journey of failures, if we are going to make experiments fast, then I don't care which one. Pick one.
Currently, after you build two founder of two unicorns and 9 other startups, any problems that you feel very passionate about right now?
So I haven't built a new startup in the last couple of years, and the reason is that I'm busy with the existing startups.
Enough.
No, no, not enough for now.
MashaAllah,
I can build
MashaAllah,
more, but at the end of the
MashaAllah.
day, for me, I'm a very simple person. I'm a very simple person because I have purpose in life, and my purpose is about value creation. Very simple. And I'm lucky that there are multiple ways for me to create value. And so as long as I can be valuable, then I'm happy. I don't think that I can be valuable by taking another startup by creating another startup right now because of time allocation, right? And so I'm not building anything new right now. I'm definitely supporting my existing startups, and there are a few of them that are really, really going to become successful. I believe that Pontera that deals with retirement saving is going to be my next unicorn, and there are companies in my portfolio that are going to be very successful, helping a lot of people, and so yeah, I'm very proud of my current batch of startups. I keep on building. I keep on building.
Selfish request, please. You're a very good teacher. I mean, your book, I wish I've read it 10 years ago. And even this interview, you gave me concrete examples and you try to change the example based on my own understanding. So you really, education, it comes naturally to you. Please spend more time on that.
Um, so you're right. My personality, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm also a
Yes,
teacher.
yes.
Um, that my teaching personality gives me really the state of mind that if I can help you to become more successful, then I fulfill my destiny. Then I feel rewarded for that. And I believe that I did the right thing. By the way, I was speaking at the conference in Dubai, Doers,
Doors, yes,
a couple of weeks ago,
yes.
and there was a dialogue about me coming to Emirates and doing some workshops and master classes on building companies, and I'm happy to do that, right? So in general, I would say if this is going to work out, maybe we will actually going to meet face to face, and you can join one of those master classes, and that might help you to become more successful.
Absolutely. And you'll need to sign my book.
Happy.
I know that you have four kids, I mean, my age, 20, 30 years old. Any advice you tell them when they come? They're like, hey, dad, I'm frustrated with my work. What should I do?
That is easy. That is something that happens a lot, unfortunately.
Oh,
And look,
really?
and I would say this is really simple, right? So if you are not happy at your current job, then I would ask you, can you change it, right? And try to change it in the next 90 days. And by the way, what I will do is that I will mark my calendar. You are getting 90 days from now, exactly 90 days. And if you are still not happy, then I will tell you to leave. Because in many cases, you cannot change your workplace, your boss, your whatever, and you're not happy. You don't want to have miserable life. You don't want to be in a place that you are not happy. In most cases, by the way, in working places, people are joining the company and they are leaving the direct manager. So I want you to think of the following. When someone quit, they literally fire their manager. That's the way for them to actually fire their manager. There's no other way except quitting. So if you are not happy and you cannot change that, then leave. You go back to the history, most of the places you enjoy or you did not enjoy because of the people, not because of what you were doing.
So true. Yes.
And so there is an underlying assumption that you cannot change the people and therefore you should leave. That's the way for you to change the people.
Waze was acquired. What did success feel like emotionally? Because, I mean, here in the region, startups raising money, it's usually here startups are very scrappy, not like in Silicon Valley. That's why it took you a lot of time to raise their first $12 million. And eventually, a lot of people said no to you. And eventually, Google acquired Waze.
So, so the acquisition time was actually very emotionally, right? Because it's a life-changing event, right? But it's more than a life-changing event for me. It was a life-changing event for all the employees. For all the employees, we actually were very generous with equity, and 75% of the employees of Waze become millionaires overnight. So we felt really, really proud with what we were able to create for them. Now it was also important because we knew that Waze is going to remain Waze, and we keep on the mission that we had to help drivers to avoid traffic jams. By the way, I left the day after. I left the day after in order to build more companies. But in general, I would say you should think about selling the company with 3 or 4 different criteria. So the first one, is that going to be a life-changing event for you? If it is, then start to think about it seriously. If it's not, then keep on creating value. Number 2, is that going to be a life-changing event for the team that have built this company with you? And if it is, then start to think about it even more favorably. And if it's not, then negotiate a deal that it will be. Number 3, think about the day after. All of your shareholders, there is no day after for them. The only one that actually do have day after is the founding team. If you like the day after, then start to think about it more favorably. If you don't like, then maybe you shouldn't go there. And number 4, is that company of yours is once in a lifetime? If it is, then keep it. If it's not, and I was already in a position that I was building more. So it wasn't once in a lifetime for me. So these are the general rules, but in general, I think that the first one is going to be the most significant triggering event. If this is a life-changing event, then you're going to think about it more favorably. And I would like to suggest that think about the rest of the team stronger than you think about yourself.
So, if a builder listening today remembers only one idea from your book, 5 years from now, what do you hope it is?
I probably struggle with 3. Journey of failures. Right? Good enough. The biggest enemy of good enough is perfect. So this is one. Fall in love with the problem, not the solution. That means focus on the value that you create. And simplicity. Simplicity wins. That's it.